Hello viewers, and welcome to yet another Warhammer 40,000 Conquest video production. My name is Mitch, and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today we have Sam Mann facing off against Maverick 7711. We actually have a Commander Shadowsun mirror match, completely unexpected, unplanned, and this is actually Sam's Octagon WA competitive online league match for the week. He happened to choose Commander Shadowsun, which starts off with 7 cards, 7 resources, and our opponent also has Commander Shadowsun. So important to note, the ability for this warlord is as soon as she happens to commit to a planet, she can put a Tau attachment with printed cost 2 or lower, or the army unit Shadowsun Stealth Cadre from hand or discard pile into play attached to an eligible unit at her planet. Our initiative token happens to reside with Sam. We see at the 5th planet an Earthcast Technician. Its reaction happens to tutor the top 6 cards of his deck for a drone or attachment, and it's revealed and put into Sam's hand. He happens to fetch a copy of Gun Drones, which is, just like the Shadowsun Stealth Cadre, a Tau army unit that happens to give you the flexibility, the versatility of playing it as an attachment. But instead of conferring +2 attack, +2 defense, it gives area effect 2. We see Maverick play out a 0-cost recon drone, a 2 command icon unit to the 4th planet, so Sam responds with a Tactical Squad Cardenas at planet number 1. It has 1 command icon, area effect 1. If he happens to play a Gun Drones affixed to this unit, it automatically boosts up to area effect 3, which is extraordinarily nasty. We see an opposing Tactical Squad Cardenas played out at planet number 1, and Sam happens to affix that copy of the aforementioned Gun Drones out to his TAC squad at the 1st planet. So because he's playing Tau, he's not playing Anshi, he does not have Armor Bane to rely on, but he does happen to have Area Effect 3 put out at the 1st planet. He has the initiative token, so even if both warlords happen to go to the 1st planet, Sam could absolutely rock his opposition with that Area Effect 3, because that is hugely threatening to the opposing warlord. We see a Vashyah Trailblazer put down by the opponent, by Sam's opponent. Maybe a little bit of my bias is showing here at planet number 3, and that's going to allow him to win command there, and then potentially use mobile to shift away. Sam plays out a 2nd copy of the Earthcast Technician, this time at planet number 2, which will allow him to win command there and tutor the top 6 cards of his deck for a drone or attachment. Taking a look at our planet layout, planet number 1 is going to be Aatrox Prime, which deals damage to enemy units at HQ or planet. Planet number 2 is going to be Taurus, which rewards resources or cards if you happen to have fewer units than your opponent. Planet number 3 is Karnath, triggers a battle ability of any other planet in play. Sam happens to fetch a recon drone from the top of his deck, put that into his hand. He only has 1 resource, 5 cards left, but that recon drone is free, and it'll be a nice opportunity for him to probably match command with one of these 2 units at planet number 3 or 4, or best his opponent at planet number 2, as we see a Borkon Recruits touchdown at this planet. He is going to deploy his recon drone to planet number 3 so that he can match his Vashyah Trailblazer, having opponent for command at that planet. At the present moment, the opponent has 1 resource, 3 cards, whereas Sam has 1 resource, 4 cards. So it's currently Maverick's turn to take a deploy action. We see him pass, and at the present moment, in regard to committing warlords, it seems as though it would be... I'm not sure if it would exactly be foolhardy for Maverick to send his warlord, Commander Shadowsun, to the 1st planet just because he's setting himself up to potentially incur Area Effect 3. Sam plays out a Rogue Trader at the 1st planet so that he can win command there and draw an additional resource. So it's all going to come down to where our players are going to send their warlords. They can affix attachments based upon wherever Shadowsun is going to go. So we could see the Mavericks tactical squad potentially get boosted up. We could see this Borcon recruit gets boosted. It's kind of a nice deterrent for Sam to go to the second planet. And at the present moment, let's see, it looks like planet number 5 for Maverick, planet number 1 for Sam. He's going to put out a heavy marker drone attached to the opposing tactical squad, which is kind of an interesting choice. Commander Shadowsun is potentially going to be able to snipe this Earthcast technician at planet 5. And we see the Vashia Trailblazer is going to be targeted by mobile, potentially. Okay, it looks like that was maybe a little bit premature. So we're determining command. Sam is only going to be winning command at planet number 1, whereas Maverick wins command at planet 4 and 5. Looks like Sam reels in 1 card, 2 resources, whereas Maverick pulls in 2 cards and 1 resource. Commander Shadowsun for Maverick didn't actually have any eligible targets whatsoever, and in just taking a look at her effect, it's into an eligible unit at this planet, so the heavy marker drone is indeed eligible for that effect. Cards like the gun drones are not actually Tau attachments, so they can't be put into play through Commander Shadowsun's ability. The gun drones can be deployed as an attachment, so cards like Ambush Platform can work with it. We see Sam with initiative at the first planet after the Vashia Trailblazer shifted from planet 3 to planet 2, and Tactical Squad Cardenas is going to activate Area Effect 3 at the first planet here, and that heavy marker drones is of course going to trigger and just obliterate the opposing units, so it ends up taking 6 points of damage, and that means Sam is going to win the battle at this planet, and now Aatrox Prime is going to be able to take a shot at Taurus, and of course this sets up the opponent into the very unfavorable position of his Vashia Trailblazer being entirely exposed to fire from Aatrox Prime. The one nice thing about that, although there's no battle taking place, is we only see a grand total of 4 units for Maverick, and we see 6 units for Sam. So it's going to be extraordinarily important that Sam try to win the battle at Taurus next turn, just because he's going to have quite the unit count lead on his opponent. We see a copy of Fall Back, kind of a curious inclusion, used as a shield, discarded as a shield to save that Vashia Trailblazer. This Borcon Recruits is going to be pretty nasty next turn, just because unless Sam gets out a ranged attacker, it'll be able to swing for potentially 4 or more, depending on Warlord positioning. We see a battle at the 5th and final planet taking place. Commander Shadowsun destroys Sam's Earthcast Technician. We see our screen resized because of a wonderful unit movement there. Eluith, of course, the battle ability gets to activate, and that allows Maverick to search the top 3 cards of his deck for any 1 card he would like, and to rearrange the next 2 in any order. Prior to, well, as we move into headquarters phase, we're going to be seeing 6 resources, 5 cards for Sam, and 6 resources, 6 cards for Maverick. Eluith does not require you to reveal the card that you ultimately draw, and at the present moment, it looks like there's reasonable. I suppose our players are fairly matched in regard to command. Our new 5th planet is Barless, which is going to allow one of our players to discard a card at random from the opponent's hand. And now we see the initiative token pass to Maverick, and it's kind of up to Sam to take a deploy action as soon as Maverick makes his move. As Sam happened to win a battle at the first planet, he currently has 1 red icon and 1 blue icon, so therefore he could win the game as early as the following round. At Karnath, we see an Earthcast Technician played out to planet number 5 by Maverick, and that's allowing him to tutor the top 6 cards of his deck, and potentially allowing him to win command at Barless as well. We see Maverick has 3 command icons presently at the first planet, and that's going to allow him to potentially pull in 1 card, 1 resource. That Earthcast Technician puts him 1 unit closer to Sam's unit count, and it seems as though the Earthcast Technician played out by Maverick is not going to successfully retrieve anything at all. We see a 2-cost ambush platform played out into Sam's HQ, and this allows him to, whenever an attachment happens to be paid, its cost is reduced by 1, whenever it's deployed, and then combat action allows Sam to surprisingly effectively ambush an attachment into play from his hand. We see a Frontline Launch Bay played out into Commander Shadowsun's HQ, and this is kind of maligned by a lot of players because it costs 1. Each time you play a Tau unit, you can exhaust the support to reduce its cost by 1, but it takes 1 turn to pay for itself, 1 turn or more to, substitute the card you invested in the Launch Bay for a resource, and then after that you start to see a little bit of profits. But Sam put out a Void Pirate, planet number 4, which could potentially allow him to pull in 3 cards, and we see a Rogue Trader deployed to planet number 1, which is going to potentially allow Maverick to pull in extra resources if he happens to win command at that planet. But seeing as how Sam is almost certainly going to be sending his Warlord to the first planet, that's yet another unit to be outright obliterated by Area Effect 3, potentially. And if Sam happens to have, say, Shadowsun Stealth Cadre or other attachments in his hand, as well as shields, if he can ensure that this Tactical Squad Cardenas is readied in order to get off an attack, then that's going to be incredibly potent indeed. We saw a copy of Gun Drones, which was actually, right, so he was affixing the copy of a Gun Drones here to the Vashia Trailblazer, but this Frontline Launch Bay can't actually reduce the cost of the Gun Drones unless they're deployed as a unit. So just a very innocent mistake there, easy to make, and good for everyone to note. So it looks as though our players are determining where they'd like to send their warlords. I can only imagine Sam is going to be going to planet number 1. I imagine that Maverick is also going to be going to planet number 1 so that he can try to get off this area effect volley first. And we see Sam actually go to planet number 2. So it looks as though he's going to be giving up this planet in order to set himself up more favorably for the future. The name of the event happens to elude me at the moment, but there does happen to be an event that allows all units with attachments to be readied, so Sam may have tried to take advantage of that if he'd have had a ton of shields. We see Sam reel in 4 cards and 2 resources in total, and Maverick has yet to do his own, but it looks like he's going to be pulling in... It looks like Maverick is going to end up pulling in a grand total of 3 cards and 3 resources, so I figured he'd have a little bit stronger command lead than he actually does, but that does not seem to be the case. In regard to triggering mobile, we'll have to see if this Vashia Trailblazer ends up moving anywhere. Maverick ultimately does decline. Had he mobiled over to Karnath, the initiative would have still rested in the hands of Sam. It seems as though Commander Shadowsun has not been putting in any work at all in regard to fixing attachments to units through her reaction for either player, with the one exception of that heavy marker drone. So that's 3 missed opportunities between both of our players here. It seems as though Maverick's Borcon recruits are likely going to destroy Sam's Earthcast Technician, and just in doing a quick unit count, it looks as though Sam has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units in total, whereas Maverick has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 after destroying this Earthcast Technician, so that is unfortunately going to deny him the opportunity to trigger Taurus's battle ability, and therefore he will not be receiving any additional cards or resources, which I'm sure is a bit of a shame. But whether that was deliberate on Sam's part, trying to keep his unit count low, or not, fairly clever play, or accidentally clever play, but the first planet is going to be, of course, captured by Maverick. That puts him at 1 red and 1 green icon. Sam is now set up quite favorably to win this planet on the following turn. Sam, if he does so, could win the game as early as Yvarn, and the same exact thing goes for Maverick, so whether or not he wants to push our new first planet very hard kind of remains to be seen. Looks like Sam is going to end up winning the battle at Karrnath entirely uncontested, so he could trigger Yvarn for each player to put something into play from their HQ. He's ultimately going to trigger Barlas, which is going to necessitate his opponent discarding 1 card at random from hand. Looks as though Maverick randomly discards 1 copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas, which is going to be very important, seeing as how that's got area effect, and we see quite a few units in play. The initiative token is about to pass over to Sam, which is going to put him in an extraordinarily good position to win this first planet, seeing as how he's got an area effect 3 unit there. We've yet to see any ranged units for any of our players, so I can only imagine that Sam is going to want to back up Yvarn as heavily as possible, and his opponent is going to want to probably bear that in mind in trying to block Sam from winning the game at that planet. We see our new 5th planet is Farron, which pulls in resources. It allows for the rout of non-warlord units, so the game could end for either player as early as this Yvarn, our new 2nd planet. Presuming that Maverick allows Karrnath to go uncontested, since we see a copy of the Fire Drake Terminators played out by Sam, then the earliest he'd be able to win the game would be, it looks like, Barlas through strong point icons. So if he doesn't end up winning the first planet now, it's looking like he'll have to win Yvarn and Barlas, but of course he is going to have the initiative token at both of those planets, but he'd have to block Sam winning the game at Karrnath and at Elowith, our planets 1 and 2 respectively. So we see a copy of Earthcast Technician played out by Maverick at planet number 5. It seems as though he's tutoring. He fetched a copy of Gun Drones, which has, of course, confers area effect 2, and that's now in his hand. Sam plays out a Rogue Trader to planet number 4, so he's now contesting Maverick's command at that planet. I didn't really talk about it at length, but this Fire Drake Terminators is the first elite we've seen played this game. It's a formidable 2 command icons, 3 attacks, 6 hit points, and as soon as it's declared a defender, any attacker takes 1 damage, so unless we start seeing a bunch of beefy units, which Commander Shadowsun normally puts into play relatively easily, thanks to Shadowsun's Stealth Cadre and myriad other effects, that's normally pretty nasty. It's a nice answer to Chimera, it's a nice answer to Termagant tokens, and we see a Sasea or Sakea XV88 broadside put out at the first planet. This is another elite. It's a 4/6 with 3 command icons. It has area effect 2 with 1 or more attachments, and that is an extraordinarily nasty card because if it has a copy of Gun Drones on it, it'll be area effect 4. Sam actually puts out a heavy marker drone, which is going to double all damage dealt to the attached unit, and of course, quite predictably, we see a copy of Gun Drones played out to the Sakea XV88 broadside, so it now happens to have area effect 4 in total, but without the assistance of any shield icons, this area effect 3 Tactical Squad Cardenas would destroy it outright, so that area effect 4 volley will allow it to essentially wipe out all of this opposition here, but we see a copy of Ion Rifle played out to the Fire Drake Terminators controlled by Sam. Sam has the initiative token, so a single shot from these Fire Drake Terminators are going to be dealing out an incredible 12 damage to the Sakea XV88 broadside, which in a single shot, it could allow Sam to essentially remove 2 cards and 8 resources worth of units from his opposition, so it was definitely not without a little bit of resource investment of his own, but clearly an incredibly crippling blow in an economic sense. Both of our players are going to be moving into the committance phase of command here. Looks as though Sam is going to be winning at the first planet because he just has a complete glut of command icons available. At planets 2 and 5, Maverick is going to be winning command, and Sam is going to be winning at planet number 3. It seems as though there was a little bit of a misunderstanding in regard to the effect of ambush platform, just because unlike the Frontline Launch Bay, it does not actually need to exhaust in order to reduce the cost of attachments. It only need exhaust if you're exhausting it to play an attachment to deploy an attachment during combat. We see Commander Shadowsun go to the first planet for both players. This is kind of a curious choice. I figured that this Maverick Commander Shadowsun would try and cut their losses here, but this could just be extraordinarily nasty for Maverick. We see a copy of the Heavy Marker Drones, the third and final copy, put out by Sam, and it's also affixed to the Cicada XV-88 broadside, so that means each instance of damage is going to be doubled, so he doesn't even need to take a shot with this Fire Drake Terminators. He can attack for area effect 3, which is doubled to 6, versus the Cicada, which is doubled again to 12, and that's going to be area effect 3 to each and every unit present at that planet, and then that Cicada is going to be taking a grand total of 12. We see a copy of Shadowsun Stealth Cadre put into play on the Cicada from Maverick's Commander Shadowsun, but that's going to be completely ineffectual and is, in all honesty, an entirely wasted play. That may have better served him just sitting in his hand, because it's going to be absolutely ridiculous here. That area effect volley is going to just crush Maverick. It looks as though there was a small mistake at planet number 4, seeing as how both players accidentally tied command, so Maverick is going to have to put the 2 cards he drew back and then shuffle his deck. Unfortunately for Sam, his Rogue Trader not only failed to win him command, but he's not able to pull in that extra resource. So this battle at the first planet, unless we happen to see something that I'm not aware of for Maverick, it's looking like he's really in an unfavorable position. Keep in mind that the initiative token is very much in Sam's hand, and this area effect 3 is going to be absolutely devastating. But let's see what exactly happens once our players end up resolving their command phase. Alright, so Sam ends up pulling in 4 cards and 2 resources. He's presently at 5 resources, 9 cards, and Maverick is instead at a paltry 3 resources, 4 cards. The combat phase begins. The Vashiaw Trailblazer has the opportunity to mobile away, which it certainly should, because otherwise it's almost certain to get caught up and destroyed immediately in this gun drone's area effect volley. But let's see what is occurring here. I suppose Maverick is asking if mobile can be triggered despite a unit being exhausted, and indeed it can, so quite wisely he moves the Vashiaw Trailblazer away from what is about to be a massacre here. So Sam indicates he has no actions whatsoever, Maverick indicates he has no actions, and now it's Sam's opportunity to attack, and I can only imagine that he's going to be firing with that Tactical Squad Cardenas. So the Rogue Trader, the Borcon Recruits, the Commander Shadowsun controlled by the opponent, they're all going to be taking 3 points of damage, and then this Cicada XV-88, even though it's at presently 6 attack, 8 hit points, it's going to be taking double damage, doubled, so 3 becomes 6, 6 becomes 12, and despite having 8 hit points, even if we see Commander Shadowsun discard her signature command link drone with 3 shield icons, that's not going to be enough to save its life. Even if Fireblade Kyvray were sitting at this planet, increasing that 3 shield icon bonus to 4, it still would not be enough to save it. So we see the Borcon Recruits destroyed. We see that Rogue Trader destroyed. the Sakea is going to be destroyed. Both copies of Heavy Marker Drone controlled by Sam are discarded, but Commander Shadowsun takes 3 points of damage. That Shadowsun Stealth Cadre and Gun Drones controlled by Maverick are now discarded. Certainly they can be eventually returned to play by Commander Shadowsun, but that was just an absolutely crushing shot by Sam. So he is going to be able to win the battle ability at this planet. Farron will allow him to rout a target non-warlord unit. I can only imagine he would choose to rout this Vashia Trailblazer. We happen to see Shadowsun's signature squadron redeployment used, so he exhausts an army unit with 1 or more attachments to move it to a target planet. I guess Sam instead is opting to trigger Barless, so he's going to discard a card at random from the opponent's hand. It looks as though Maverick happens to have randomly discarded Fallback, which is certainly something that Sam doesn't want to see. Sam manages to capture that planet. All of these units return to his headquarters. We've yet to see this ambush platform's combat action used. And now it's all going to come down to this planet Yavvarn. It's going to be absolutely crucial that Maverick can try to prevent Sam from winning the game at this planet, because we see Sam has 2 technology and 2 material icons. And this is certainly all going to come down to this present planet number 1. We, of course, see no new planet. Both players move into the headquarters phase, draw 4 resources and 2 cards, and then we move into deployment. The initiative token rests in Maverick's hands. I keep wanting to say in Commander Shadowsun's hands. And it's all going to come down to the last 7 resources and 5 cards that Maverick has. Certainly this is a powerful unit, this Vashia Trailblazer, but presuming that Sam is going to be going to the first planets, that area effect 2 isn't going to be able to wipe out this entire army. Sam's tactical squad will survive, and if it can survive until, the end of the first round of combat, we see a second copy of Fire Drake Terminators played out by Sam at the first planet, opposite the Crisis Battle Guard that we saw from Maverick, so that's certainly going to allow him to probably lock down command at that planet, but it's a 3-5 with mobile, and a 3-5 isn't quite so frightening when Sam has this 6-6 copy of Fire Drake Terminators sitting here at the planet, and he has 9 cards remaining in hand. That is a hell of a lot of shield potential for him to use. Currently, command seems relatively evenly distributed between both players. Sam is winning at Planet 2, and Maverick is winning at Planet 4. They've got Planet 3 contested. I can only imagine that Yavvarn is going to be won by Maverick, and that's going to be critically important. We see a copy of Deception that bounces that gun drones laden tactical squad Cardenas back to Sam's hand, and that brings Maverick down to 1 resource. So even though Sam can return that tactical squad into play, it's far less dangerous without that affixed copy of gun drones. I believe Sam still happens to have 2 additional copies of gun drones somewhere in his deck, but whether or not those are currently sitting in his hand remains to be seen. We do see that copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas, or a different copy, played out at the first planet, and Sam's number 1 priority is going to be removing this Vashia Trailblazer from play. We could potentially see it fire its area effect volley, and then we could see Commander Shadowsun exhaust. Again, the name of the event happens to elude me. For the Tau Va, I believe is the event I'm trying to think of, which would require Commander Shadowsun to exhaust, but then all units with attachments would ready, and that would at least allow the Vashia Trailblazer to get off a 2 area effect volley. Maverick plays out his last resource as an ion rifle played out to this Crisis Battle Guard. I'm curious as to what he has in hand, where he felt like spending that resource as opposed to, say, using Commander Shadowsun's ability. Maybe he's hoping to draw into a Shadowsun Stealth Cadre, or simply has one in hand. He does happen to have one in his discard pile, so he could return that attached to that Crisis Battle Guard to make it effectively an 8/7, so a very nasty unit indeed. And of course, Sam is out of those heavy marker drones. I can only imagine that as we move into the command phase, both players are going to be picking planet number 1, and this is going to be a very nasty combat indeed, a lot of dead units, but I'm fairly skeptical as to whether or not Maverick is going to be able to pull out a victory here. We see both players indeed commit to the first planet. In tallying up command icons, looks like we have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 controlled by Maverick, whereas we have 4 for Sam. We do see a copy of Shadowsun's Stealth Cadre, presumably moved from Maverick's discard pile onto that Crisis Battle Guard, and Sam happens to move a copy of Heavy Marker Drones from his discard pile onto that Crisis Battle Guard, so that is incredibly nasty, and that's going to allow one of his Fire Drake Terminators to attack for an incredible 12 against that unit. So even though it happens to have a modified 7 hit points, it's just absolutely absurd how much damage both of these Salamander's elites are going to be able to dish out. In regard to command, Maverick ultimately pulls in a grand total of 3 resources and no cards. He doesn't have any copies of Rogue Trader or Void Pirate out. Sam, instead, I suppose I missed what he got, but he got 2 cards, well, 3 cards, I suppose just total of 3 cards. We're not going to be seeing any mobile take place, and it's all going to come down to this. It's absolutely crucial that Maverick try to win Yavar, and he's got 3 resources, 2 cards in hand remaining. And I am back after a knock at my door has taken me away from this game, but we do happen to have a battle taking place at the first planet. Maverick is staring down a formidable army of Fire Drake Terminators and other units controlled by Sam. Both of them happen to have affixed ion rifles, and it is all going to come down to this planet. We see Sam's ambush platform exhaust. He puts out a copy of Shadowsun's Stealth Cadre for a mere 1 resource, bringing one of his ion rifle-laden Fire Drake Terminators to be an 8/8 modified unit. The only unit controlled that is really of any threat, apart from that Area Effect 2 Vashiaw Trailblazer, is that Crisis Mobile Suit that's presently a modified 8/7. It takes a swing at Sam's Fire Drake Terminators. As soon as it's declared an attacker, it's going to be taking 1 point of damage, doubled to 2 thanks to that Heavy Marker Drone, and it looks as though Sam's Fire Drake Terminator is going to be outright destroyed, seeing as how that Battle Guard is attacking for a modified 8, thanks to an ion rifle and Shadowsun Stealth Cadre. But very unconventional play indeed. We actually see an Indomitable played out by Sam, which is going to prevent all incoming damage entirely, and it looks as though we see a GG called by Maverick, so he calls out good game. Sam, of course, could have taken a swing with either one of his Fire Drake Terminators, very easily obliterated that Crisis Battle Guard. I can't imagine Maverick would have had anything at all in hand to spare its life, even if he would have been holding an Indomitable of his own that can, of course, only target Space Marine units. So it looks as though this game has concluded. That Area Effect 2 Vashiaw Trailblazer would not have been able to take care of business here. The opposing Commander Shadowsun would have been very easily dispatched indeed. So it seems as though this is our game. Thank you for watching. Congratulations to Sam, and thank you very much to Maverick for allowing me to record this video. And I suppose I'll just conclude things by saying, if you enjoyed this video, I would certainly appreciate if you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not already done so, or if you are already subscribed, as ever, you're encouraged to share, as the more people that potentially stumble upon this content, the more new players might like what they see, ultimately decide to buy into this game, and send the message to Fantasy Flight Games to keep putting out expansions, keep releasing new product, and keep supporting this game we all know and love and play. And of course, more players joining our game means the expansion of our community as well, which is always a good thing. So video. I'll just say, if you happen to at any point be so inclined as to help me cover some of my file hosting and operating expenses, I'd be absolutely honored were you to check out my Patreon, but by no means feel obligated. So as ever, thank you once again for watching, and be sure to check back in again soon for ever more Conquest LCG content to come.